What up? What up? What up? What up?
All
What up?
right.
What up? What up? What's good, people? What is up? What is up? Hello, sir.
Salutations, sir.
How are you?
I'm well, and yourself.
I am doing well. Welcome, everybody. This is Red, Blue, and Black, episode 27 for El Teddy 27. That's my favorite number.
I would have assumed it was 69, but
Really.
what? You know what you give on this platform, and you're like, really?
Really?
Yeah.
Do you really think that little of me?
Yes.
You ain't right. Anyway,
Just
hello, everybody. Thank y'all for being here. This is episode 27 of Red, Blue, and Black. Now we know, we know, we have been gone for 2 weeks, scheduling conflicts for the both of us. Mainly my fault and not Cam's fault. So don't blame Cam's. Is a lot was on me. My work had me traveling and stuff.
well, I was traveling for work.
Nevertheless,
I was traveling for work.
nevertheless, we are here today. Are you excited about today?
I mean, we was gone for a minute. Now we back with the jump off. So I think, I think I'm happy to be back. Yes.
Not back with the jump off. I had a good jump off or five back in the day.
Here we go. Do you think so little of me? And then you leave with this.
What?
Leave with this.
Anyway,
Hey Tracy, hey Roddy, how are y'all doing
We
today?
got some things to discuss today. We will be talking about what's going on with some of our Haitian brothers and sisters
Mhm.
still to this day up in the great state of Ohio. We will be talking about let's just say elections malfeasance of sorts, both in both Carolinas, North and South Carolina. And then we will talk about how something that is slipping under the radar that is going to directly affect all of us, and that we really need to be on the front lines of and really need to be aware of, so that we are not ill prepared for it when we see it. You ready, Cams?
When you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Let's go.
They make pills for that.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Just saying.
Duly noted.
All right, let's start in the great state of Ohio, where, if you recall, during the election cycle, your president Donald John and others, JD Vance and others in on the conservative side, um, said that Haitian Americans in Ohio were eating people's pets and things like that, which caused undue discrimination, um, and against the Haitian American community, in not just in Ohio but all over the country. But it was uh, uh, the fault lines of it started in Springfield, Ohio, and after nefarious neo-Nazi groups received their dog whistle from their God King, Donald John. They, even after you didn't hear a lot more about it in the news cycle, they continued their reign of terror on the Haitian American community in Springfield, Ohio, and surrounding areas. So much so that even to this day, right now, that community is still being ravaged by this terror organization, namely one called, I believe it's Blood Tribe. So the Haitian American community have filed charges and have lawsuits and filed a lawsuit against that neo-Nazi group Blood Tribe, their leaders, and others within the community of Springfield and in and around the Dayton, Ohio area. And they want retribution. And I can't say that I blame them. But that's the crux of what we have here. I'll let you expound more, Cams.
Sure. So, to just reiterate what you were saying, the city of Springfield, Ohio, has filed a federal lawsuit against the white supremacist group Blood Tribe. It is accusing them of organizing a campaign of racial intimidation against the city's Haitian immigrants. The suit has alleged that the group has marched near where the Haitians are staying, near their homes with Nazi symbols. They've shouted slurs at them as well as threatened violence. So the city of Springfield is seeking damages and an injunction under the federal civil rights and anti-terrorism laws. What I would like to point out in this is that this is none of this happens in a vacuum. This I don't even know how to describe, because presidential is not it. The Orange Terror has had a critical role in emboldening extremists in this country. Um, let's go down the timeline, shall we? In 2017, he claimed all Haitian immigrants had AIDS. In 2018, he called Haiti a shithole country. And during the 2023 campaign, which you already highlighted on, he falsely claimed Haitian immigrants were eating animals, which to me, and we cover this, he was, evoking these racist and dehumanizing tropes. Further compound that with the fact that he refuses to clearly condemn white nationalist groups, and his repeated promotion of xenophobic lies have created this climate where people like these neo Nazi groups, such as the Blood Tribe, feel publicly validated. So that also further emboldens the actions that they do. And I would like to note that we've clearly had all the research done. We've had several government publications under previous administrations where they have said, the FBI and the DHS particularly, they have repeatedly warned that white supremacist domestic terrorism poses the most persistent and lethal threat to national security. The Blood Tribe themselves, they operate training camps. They attend pride and racial justice events to, intimidate people, as well as they openly recruit online because the federal government has done dick all under this administration to protect everyone equally under the law. So I think that there's several points to discuss here. How Trump's language has mainstreamed violent racial propaganda, why this fits the T for what the FBI and the DHS have been talking about. I also think that the link between anti black racism crosses over into anti immigrant hate, especially when these people are black. Let's be clear. It's not just the xenophobia, it's the racism as well. And why it's pathetic that you have cities like Springfield where they're leading the legal fight because the federal government, again, is ineffective. This administration is not governing, and people's lives are really at risk. Everything is fun and games until it's not only sticks and stones, it's improvised explosive devices, because we know how these people get down historically. We know how they get down. So I think that, this we're in dangerous times. We're in very dangerous times, compounded with some of the other political stuff that's going on. It's not looking good to be an immigrant, to be black or brown in America. And that orange person, you know, sitting in the White House currently is not helping situations at all. If we thought January the 6th was some real stuff, I think worse is yet to come. Is how I would phrase it.
Well, um, let me say like this. There's so much to this that we could really spend a whole hour on Haiti and what's going on because if we really want to go down the real history of it, what's going on in Haiti was caused by us. Let's be clear. Um, and a part of it is this. I just talked about how uh just the other day, I believe it was Monday, yesterday, they designated two Haitian gangs as terror organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They designated them as foreign terrorist organizations, that being the Viva Sam as well as the Grand Grief gangs. And what that does is that puts them in the same profile as MS-13 and Trinidad, which means now they're going to start swooping them up in these ice raids. That's the first thing. The other thing is that with these all of these terror designations, let's be clear, the executive branch of these yet to be United States of America is turning into the largest terror organization in this country. Let's be brutally honest here. And the thing about it is, These are the same people that, in one breath, want to vilify colleges, right? Because these colleges allow students to protest a genocide going on over in Gaza, and say that those students are anti Semitic, but they want to prop up organizations like the Blood Tribe that walk around with swastikas on and walk around with giant swastika flags. These are the same people
That's
want to
free speech,
call
though. That's free speech.
peaceful protesters anti-Semitic, but encourage people walking around with actual swastikas. These are the same entities.
Well, I mean, APAC is donating money, so you know how they go. We have some very cheap whores
Yeah,
in our governing institutions,
on
and
both sides of the aisle.
to be clear, it's not a Democrat Republican thing. It's a do you have integrity as a representative, as a senator? And I would say 90% of them do not.
And really, what we have, I have no reason to believe that when this thing, because it's going to get adjudicated, regardless how it gets adjudicated, it's going to be appealed. It'll make it to the federal circuits. I have no reason to have any faith in the federal circuits anymore.
No, and I think the funny thing about this entire thing is conservatives over the past 4 decades have wanted to erode trust in these public institutions. They've done a stunning job because I have no fucking faith and I have no hope. And the Supreme Court has been completely co-opted. None of their legal reasoning for some of these controversial decisions defy logic. They defy history. They defy facts. And so we're just creating our own reality as we go along. Is how I truly feel about it. So like, no, I don't have any hope. I don't. And I'm not saying it's gloom and doom because you can only push people so far before the backlash shows you that the power is really with the people. I think that Americans are going to stop being apathetic, and that's going to be a very terrifying people for this, the one percenters who think that they can just manipulate things, to their will behind the scenes because they can donate some money here and there. I think eventually people are going to get fed up. It's to what degree? At what point is enough for you? To be clear, it was enough for me on January the 20th.
Well, the thing about it is, like I said, although this story about what's going on in Ohio is not front page news anymore, and you don't hear about it from mainstream media, this stuff is still going on. Now, here's what's amazing to me. While the city of Springfield has these lawsuits, my question then becomes, what are you doing proactively as a city? Is law enforcement getting involved? Are they doing anything to quell the rise of this neo-Nazi faction within the city? Are you making it where it's difficult for them to just parade around the city with this with these racist and bigoted displays that they have? What are you doing proactively in Springfield? I understand the lawsuit, and I'm not saying don't do the lawsuit. Please go full steam ahead with that. But as a city, as a municipality, what are you actually tangibly doing to protect the citizens of your community against this reign of terror?
I would like to know what options they would have when, since they filed this lawsuit, and I think that they were biding time. You don't want to do anything that's going to reflect poorly when you have a legal system and structure that is deeply sympathetic to white people, regardless of how egregious their fucking conduct, because you have these damn judges who see themselves in these defendants. And when I looked at the judicial makeup of America, well, I'm not shocked by some of the cases that we've seen at the federal level and the splits that we've seen. You have
But
people.
my point is, doesn't that help your case in terms of saying here are all of the instances where they violated city law and municipalities and they had to be apprehended or arrested for a direct violation of this law and this law. This shows that we have been very proactive in chronicling everything that they're doing and apprehending them if they are in violation of the law each and every time. Have a whole grocery list of things, so it can be produced as evidence of what's happening to this community. Otherwise, if you go there with nothing to produce, then it's left up to however that judge feels at that point.
Well, I don't think that they have nothing. I think that if you read the suit, like it's clearly documented that they have this. This is what they've been doing. This is how it is intimidation. They've built the legal framework. But what I'm saying to you, and let me be very explicit, evidence doesn't fucking matter. Evidence does not matter. And maybe I'm a little pissed off at the Supreme Court decision, but evidence does not fucking matter. These people already have their conclusion, and they will then walk backwards to find the justification to get to the end result that they wanted. That's what I'm telling you. That's how much my trust has been eroded in these institutions. Justice is blind as hell, and what that means is black and brown people getting snatched the fuck up. They're getting disappeared to El Salvador. They're getting their asses beat in the streets. They're being fucking harassed at their homes. History repeats itself. It's cyclical. We've been here before. And what the hell were the courts doing then? Nothing. And people were getting their houses fucking blown up. What the fuck were they doing? Nothing. Like,
But
I
that's
just
why I feel
I don't have
that's
the trust in the
also,
institution.
like I said, that's why I feel like even with this lawsuit, it sounds good on paper, but tangibly,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what you said about having no faith in Article 3,
None.
what are you doing tangibly,
None.
city of Springfield, to protect your citizens? Because you still have the responsibility, the ownership of protecting the citizens within your borders. What are you doing?
What can they do? When most
They
of
can do a whole lot.
let
They
me
can do a whole lot.
I would just like to say that most of these anti-terrorism, that shit is federal. Like a lot of that is federal. And then I some of it is intentional during civil rights because certain states did not want to enforce things. So the federal government wanted to take it over. But when the federal government has been co opted and the states have been handicapped, some states are very handicapped because
But but
home, no, let me finish, because home rule is not a thing in some of these Republican government. They're not. They don't get to dictate what they do. That goes to the state level. And what is the state level controlled by? There's a lot of red administrations across the U.S. And
here,
what do you want them to
but
do?
what I'm going to say is
What
this.
I want to know is what
Here's
do
what you
you
can
want
do.
them to do
Here's what they can do.
with the frameworks that are in place? What
With
would
the
you have them
frameworks
do?
that is in place, I'm gonna tell you what you can do.
What go?
In this, at the same breath that you use the current laws and frameworks on the books to to see to it that on every college campus across America that you round up anybody that protests or has a any type of act of what they see standing up against for a specific belief or ruling or whatnot. The same way You can have whatever laws that are currently on the books that give you the right to go and snatch them up and say, no, you cannot do this here. In the same way, you still have the right to do that on the corner of the municipalities where which these people live. You have case after case of them doing deliberate things that are against the law, that are illegal, that are violation of law. And what are you doing to stop this or to make it at least uncomfortable for these neo Nazis? Because if you're just going, if you as the municipality are going to just say, throw up your hands and say, well, there's nothing I can do, then what the point is your purpose of being here? Why are
This
we paying you taxes?
this is what I would like for you to understand, because this was a frustration that I had living in the South. The concept of fucking preemption, or I'm telling you, yes, you could have uh, all of these laws on the books, but at the municipality level, you don't have any of that in your toolkit. And you cannot, as a municipality, come up with something that is against what the state has said this is what the law is. Because preemption. And preemption is something that Republicans love. Let me be clear. They love some preemption. Like, if the state if it has legislated comprehensively on a subject, local governments are prohibited from acting conflicting regulations. Conflicting meaning adding any nuance to it. It's black and white. This is what you can get them for. Anything outside of that, we're not going to let you do that. Mm-mm. And a lot of times, it does not mention specifically racial animus. It's not mentioned, and it's intentional.
I say again, race notwithstanding, race notwithstanding. Understand what I'm saying? What I am saying, and I know what you're saying. I know they're going to use whatever they need to use to justify uh, uh, their dereliction of duties. You understand what I'm saying? They're absolutely going to use everything they need to use to justify their dereliction of duties. But if that's the case, if I have
Mhm.
to rest on you're not going to do anything tangibly on the municipality level, and then I'm subject to already knowing that you taking it to court is an exercise of futility, then my question is, what the hell is the whole point of you going to court to begin with? You're not going to do anything to stop these people because let's be clear, even if I'm in violation of state law, I can still arrest this person. It then becomes the job of the state Department of Justice to then rain down on this municipality and say, y'all got to let them go or y'all can't hold them. Or it's still, I'm going to force the state's hand. If that's the case, let me at least force the state hand. And if not, don't play with my emotions by having this lawsuit that you know good and well is going to be an exercise of futility because now you're patronizing me. If you're not going to do anything tangibly on the local level and you are apathetic about what's going to happen on this on the in the judiciary, then stop playing with me because you're patronizing me with the lawsuit.
I see it a little differently, and this is my angle. This is where I see it from. At the federal level, there are way more robust protections when it relates to racial animus. If the Ohio statute is silent and you know that you're being hampered by
So we
preemption,
need to look at the Ohio statute. That's what we need to know.
I can tell you what the Ohio statute is because I read it earlier.
Mm.
Because their definition of terrorism is as follows: terrorism is defined as committing a specified offense with the intent to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, influence government policy through intimidation or coercion, or affect government conduct via the specified offense.
Now, I say again, even with that definition, you cannot tell me that you do not have a district attorney that can't argue that what's being done doesn't fall into that, right? That's what I'm going there first. That's this part of the judiciary, me filing these lawsuits. Because if there were no legal precedent, one, or two, nothing legally in law that would provide backing for this lawsuit, they wouldn't have filed it. But that's a whole different angle. I still have to come at it with, what the hell are you doing tangibly on the local level? Because like I said, we have example after example of things that they have done to these people that is illegal. I'm not even just talking about the protests. I'm talking about all of the instances, like the thing that they did with the school bus, the thing they did at the church, the thing that they did violating people's homes and putting things on people's homes. These things are illegal.
Can
And
we
my
go back
thing is,
to this? Is
I
what I would
ask
like.
again, what are they doing tangibly? And if they're not doing anything tangibly to stop what's happening on the ground, don't patronize me telling me, oh, but we have filed this lawsuit. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, while you're in court, we're still having this reign of terror on us because you're doing nothing to stop these people.
Again, I'm going to tell you this again. I feel like I'm repeating myself. We just don't see eye to eye on this. And that's fine. Two things. They did not file a criminal lawsuit. This is a civil lawsuit. The reason why? The burden of proof is lower. If you know, like I know, and I know that you know this, the judiciary has been fucking co opted. People are changing the rules as they see fit. Shit, look at the shit in Charlottesville. You don't think that they look at what happened in Charlottesville and like let's go at this with a different angle? You don't think that's why they thought that? And I would also again like to say enforcement of those criminal anti-terrorism laws, that is at the purview of the state and federal authorities. What municipalities do, they can take action through civil litigation, which they're doing now, but they also can share information, okay, with the relevant state and federal entities that liaise with them. If they choose to do nothing with that, what do? You have to go through a different angle. And I would also just like to say, I think that the reason why most of the laws are written this way is basically due to how we were able to go after people that were committing domestic terrorism during the civil rights movement. That's my opinion on it. These frameworks are very, very particular. None of this, all policy is intentional. That's just what I feel. You knew what the impact was going to be. You wrote it the way that you wrote it because you wanted the outcome that you wanted. That's just my opinion. Now, you can feel free to disagree. You can say that it's patronizing, but I think that the residents are behind it. I mean, we've already seen when they were down to the Springfield that the white people were. You didn't see a bunch of Haitians on camera talking. It was their white neighbors that were talking. They stood up and said, "This is not our community." They don't want them damn people there. It's bad for business. You know, money makes America run. It's not Dunkin' Coffee.
Well, I even say to those white citizens within Springfield, you better do like those black citizens did in what city that is, where they said, yeah, this is not happening here. We're not having it. The police department won't do nothing about it, then we will.
I mean,
Because those same members of the blood tribe are just citizens, just like you are.
but who has the complexion for the protection?
those people descended from the Caucasus Mountains. So
Mhm.
that's why those same ones that you talked about that said, "Oh, this is not who we are. This is not our city." Well, let prove it to me because I can't tell. I can't tell. Just saying. Anyway, we gotta go. Oh, we've been on this for 35 minutes. We got excited about this. So I gotta get up early in the morning.
I chose good stories this week. I mean, I feel like
I
I did
gotta
my
get up
research.
early in the morning, sir.
Okay. Trey's
Early
still
in the
coming.
morning.
Trey's still coming over after this. So what are you talking about?
He's not. I promise you. Ain't nobody coming over here tonight.
Oh, you going over there? Okay. Get
No,
that work
Mr.
out.
Sandman is the only one that's coming over here. I am tired. This is my fourth live today. My body is tired.
Mm-hmm.
Tired.
And if the right person hit you with a you up,
If
yeah,
they won't get nothing. Matter of fact, as soon as we get off here, my phone is going on do not disturb.
whatever, whore.
Um, let's go over to the great state of South Carolina,
Oh, my
where
fucking God.
the Supreme Court of these yet to be United States of America overturned a lower court's ruling that the uh the districting map in the great state of South Carolina had been gerrymandered. Gerrymandered based on bias against black voters. Now this directly affects Nancy Mace's district, where they moved 30,000 plus Democratic leaning black residents out of Charleston. This is also indirectly but directly involved in Jim Clyburn's district as well. The way the original map was written, they would have created two extra black districts. I'm sorry, three extra black districts. The way it was, the original map would have been set. It would have been three extra Democratic district. However, it would not have favored Jim Clyburn being reelected. And so, although it would have given him more Democratic seats, it would not have favored Jim Clyburn being reelected. So Jim Clyburn, under the cloak of darkness, went and aligned himself with Republicans in the House and the Republicans on the state level that promised him that they would draw him a district that would guarantee him an election at the behest of losing Democratic seats, which then beefed up Nancy Mace's seat and a couple of other seats over there in South Carolina. Now, what happens is the Supreme Court looked at it and it went 6-3. They said, yeah, this is not gerrymandering. It was so bad. Justice Samuel Alito said, yeah, the fact that you people didn't even come up with your own map means that you don't have a argument, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But so basically, SCOTUS just gave precedent to states around the country to gerrymander districts that disenfranchise, excuse me, marginalized voters, specifically black people. Now, a part of it that what they're saying is they try to use these loopholes where they say, "Oh no, it's not based on race. We're not making things based on race. We just carve it out based on, equal proportions." Well, you have districts that look like the letter S, and stupidness like that. I'm gonna let you go, Cams, before I lose my mind, because I feel a good spike out coming. Go ahead, Cams, before I lose my mind, please, and come out of my body. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
So what I put in the chat is a ProPublica article about how Jim Clyburn protected his district and fucked over black Democrats. So those in the chat that would like to read get a little bit more on how the Supreme Court case went the way that it did, because some things were thrown out because Jim Clyburn was so involved. A lot of the early requests that he made, it really did weaken this case. And so when he protected his power, he cost the rest of us hours with this Supreme Court ruling. And let me delve a little bit more into it. Specifically, the case was Alexander versus the South Carolina State Conference of the NAACP. So the NAACP brought this case, and that's mentioned in the ProPublica article from 2023, right? And they just ruled on this recently. But essentially, they bucked that lower court's decision. I'm upset with it because there was a lot of evidence, there were a lot of data points that were used to eliminate partisanship. Um, but about 30,000 people got kicked out of the districts, and they were shifted to dilute the power of the black vote. The Supreme Court disagreed. They said the plaintiffs did not prove that race was the sole or primary factor. That is actually in the decision. And they instead deferred to lawmakers' claims of partisan intent. So the majority's rationale, and this majority opinion was written by Alito, who I fucking loathe, and I think that he's a terrible human being and that he can't go soon enough. He said that the plaintiffs failed to isolate race as the dominant motive. He then goes on to say that partisan gerrymandering is not unconstitutional. He was on the Supreme Court when they made this, Rucho v. Common Cause. That was decided in 2019. That case was some bullshit. Go look into it. And that racial effects alone do not prove racial intent. It just so happens to fuck over black people, but we don't think that racial intent was behind it. How you have these degrees and you can't get 2 and 2 and get 4, I don't know. Justice Kagan had a great dissent, in my opinion. I would urge you all to read it. She accused the majority of unfairly raising the burden of proof, which they did, and that she warned that racial discrimination is now going to hide behind partisanship, because we know that black people tend to vote Democrat. They're going to hide it behind that versus the intense racial animus that Republicans just have for anyone that's not white Judeo-Christian. But anyway, she also mentioned, and this was a clear shot to the conservative wing of the Supreme Court, she mentioned that they ignored clear factual findings from the trial court. So recall when I told you earlier that the facts don't fucking matter? This is what I meant by that, because I read the opinions. Facts do not fucking matter as long as these people get their outcome. And what I really want to focus on is the black voter impact, because this decision directly undercuts our ability to fight modern gerrymandering, especially in the South, where we know race and party are very deeply intertwined. I would say that they're enjoined. It also sends the message that unless someone admits somewhere in a text message, an email, a recorded phone call that they are doing racial gerrymandering, the courts are just going to let it stand. They're not going to do shit about it. And what I would kind of like to delve into more as we look at some more of these cases, which we know they're going to come up because there's some other lawsuits that are in the pipeline. How this legal ruling gives them a decent legal cover for racial voter suppression. How this reflects the abandonment of the judiciary from protecting the Voting Rights Act, what little is fucking left of it. How this is the loss of legal tools to help black people secure fair maps. How this contrasts with these earlier court victories that enforced racial fairness in districting. Like,
I think part of the danger of this is the fact that what their cover is, they believe in this. Oh, their whole argument is parties can't be racist. That's the backing for this. They're literally saying the Republican Party can't be racist. The Democratic Party can't be racist. No, that could never happen. So if they're just gerrymandering or based on the party, there can't be any racial animus behind that. There can't be any prejudice and or bigotry behind that. No one can have their rights disenfranchised if it's based on political parties, right? However, ignoring, what's right in front of you, just being willfully blind. That's why I don't buy this blind justice thing that your girl Pam Bondi says, because I don't think that justice should be blind. I think justice should have her eyes open and still be real justice says you're not blindfolded. You see what's going on and you still make the right decision, but they don't want any parts of that. Now, the other part that we don't that we're going that's going to get lost in the sauce in this is once they do this, this means that even if all our black asses 100% went out and voted, they have rigged the system that you still won't be able to win because the districts have been gerrymandered in a way that it's impossible to win. It's been gerrymandered where it's literally impossible to win. Even in the decision, they talked about 90% of the people that were gerrymandered, they knew were voting for Joseph Robinette. And it doesn't matter. So you could literally have a situation where you have a 90-10 situation and the 10% ends up winning.
And if we're saying that this, country has free and fair elections, then you should run on your ideas. There shouldn't be safe districts. We should not, and I'm saying this to both sides, we should not engage in the creation of fair or quote unquote safe districts. If your party is not popular, they're going to get voted the fuck out. So you need to govern with your base and people that you need to win. You can't just come up with all of this bullshit and then like, oh, okay, well, we're deeply unpopular in the polls. Let's just redistrict. Like that, I don't care for that. And it's like every 10 years, it's the same fucking magic illusion show.
The
And
other
if
thing,
you look at it on the state level, if you look at it on the state level, there's so many states that are gerrymandered. And what people don't realize is like, well, oh, it doesn't impact statewide elections. It does, because then you're like, when you know that you do not have the power to choose your candidate, you don't want to vote for any fucking body, so you stay the fuck home, and that's the intent of it. There's several academic, sources that I looked at because my undergraduate is in political science, and it works. It works because people get tired of going up to the poll. They get tired of having that energy, and then they go, "Oh, so you put me in a new district now? Oh, my polling location has changed. Let me look. Let me dig into this a little bit more." So it's like you're sort of force fed candidates versus them being popular.
and the thing about it is what happens is people get apathetic, right?
Hmm.
They bank on apathy, and your apathy doesn't stop them from continuing to move the line. They bank on your apathy, and what happens is you become apathetic and you think, oh well, they got what they wanted, so I don't care, I'm all right, until the line keeps moving and they keep taking more and more things away from you. And by the time it really hits you and you say, wait, they took that? Oh no, that's a line too far. It's already too late. There's nothing you can do. And now that you don't want to be apathetic anymore, now you feel like you want to be in the fight, it's too late.
That's
You
what I
didn't
thought.
get in the fight early enough. You were one of the people saying, man, it don't matter. They gonna do what they want to do anyway. I don't care. They gonna make us feel bad until they get to something. that directly affects you, and you say, now wait a goddamn minute, that's a line fucking too far. It's too late at that point. It's too late. It's going to be way too late. And what we have here gives credence to, because remember, there was making its way through the 11th Circuit. Florida was had sued Ron DeSantis
Hmm.
for the same thing, gerrymandering, and it was making its way, but they paused that to see what was going to be the outcome of the South Carolina, because it was the same. It was under the same election rules and laws, and now that just gave the open season to saying, yeah, we're going to willfully make sure we disenfranchise you all. And like I said, what's going to happen is people are going to check out. People are going to be apathetic. We got Black Boy George in my chat talking about, yeah, y'all still arguing about this. Move on. That's easy to say. But then when they get to a situation that you can't move on from, then that's where it's going to be like, oh no, we can't move on from that. And it's going to be too late. It's going
I,
to absolutely be too late.
I also want us to understand as a community that yes, some of us within the community are privileged, but in comparison to what real privilege is in this country, we don't have that. And so anything that's chipping away at what we've been able to build since the civil rights movement, the answer is not to just roll over and accept it. When when they, hold of Shelby County, I was screaming from the rooftops then because that gutted the Voting Rights Act.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see all of this precedent adding on top of that. So all that these people worked hard for, up and through the civil rights movement.
I
Like
got a
we
tangible.
just like, okay, we can put
I
our
got a
feet
real
up.
example for you, Kamz, that can help some of our younger people. Some of our younger people have lived in the time. It'd be like you growing up in the time period you grew up in, right? You
Mhm.
have all of these wonderful technologies. You have your cell phone that you wake up every day. And it would be like you being planted 30 years ago in 1990, 35 years ago in 1990, where you had nothing but landlines, no internet, no nothing. And it would be like saying to you, yeah, you today you have all of this technology, internet and everything. Tomorrow, yeah, you can't have that no more. Go
Mhm.
back to having no internet and landlines. Get over it. These people would do what? Lose their minds, wouldn't they?
Baby, they
They
losing it
would
at school when you take their phone for 5 to 10 minutes.
They would revolt in the streets and lose their minds. But the point that we're making is what they're doing with our laws and what they're doing to black people and other marginalized groups is the same thing. It's like you saying, yeah, you got all of these rights and everything, and you've been living with these for the last how many years, but you know what? Damn that. You ain't got no more of that. You can't have it no more. Bye.
Yeah. And then when you read the Constitution, it says certain things. We're supposedly equally protected under law, and it's never been that. And they view us having things that are ruled in our benefit as us having more rights, which to me is insane because when you look at every metric of success in America, we're always near the bottom. And that's not for a lack of hard work. That's because when you have these policies that have racial impact, but they seem neutral on face, that's fine. Even though, I mean, I've interned for a think tank, El Teddy, like when they're coming up with these proposals, with this legislation that they lobby Congress with, they already know what the impact is. I'll tell you. Let's be
Mhm.
clear.
Oh yeah, they've already done
It's
the
in the
homework.
packet that Congress receives. Whichever party is going to be introducing that legislation, they already receive it. So
Mhm.
that's why I told you before, policy is an intentional decision. There are no unintended consequences of a fucking policy. They do way too much research on what's going to be the economic impact of it. What are going to be the sectors in America that are going to be impacted by this? And if it's black or brown people, they're cool with it. Let's just roll. It's frustrating. Still dealing with this in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Make it great again. We do have, we have some momentary good news, and I'm going to say momentary because I fully expect this to make it. After the South Carolina ruling, I fully expect this to
Oh,
make
this
it
shit,
through.
this shit's getting appealed.
Oh
Oh, this shit's
yeah,
getting
oh
appealed.
yeah,
This shit getting,
and the fact that
this shit
I
getting
hate
appealed.
that the judge. Well, let me introduce this. We're going right across the border from South Carolina to North Carolina, where we have been talking about the case in North Carolina, where there was the Supreme Court seat that was there was about 730 some odd votes differentiating the winner, which was Judge Amy Riggs. I think it's Amy Riggs.
Allison Riggs was
Allison Riggs. I knew it was an A.
Allison Riggs.
Allison Riggs, who had the Democratic candidate who had won.
Yep, 734
And
votes.
so her Republican opponent was trying every political acrobatic and
Jefferson
and
Griffith.
and loophole in order to get it overturned, even trying to throw out 60,000 votes. There was a situation maybe about 3, 4 weeks ago where they were saying that everybody within that 60,000 would have to go back and certify their own votes and go back and it was a whole situation
And most of these votes were military votes, by the way.
where the people were overseas. Remember, you got Jacksonville, North Carolina, that has a huge marine base over there.
Relaxing Jackson, baby.
And, it's a lot going on. But my point being that a federal judge ruled
A Trump
that
appointee. A Trump appointee. I want to make this clear.
let that be known that North Carolina had to count those 60,000 votes. They had to certify that Allison Riggs was the winner. Caveat is he gave them a week, of grace period to give the Republican candidate, Mr. Griffin, the opportunity to appeal, which that he will, to
I hope
appeal it up to the Supreme Court, where those fucktards are waiting with bated breath to overturn the lower court ruling. Because, like you said, Cams, they don't give a damn about evidence. They don't give a damn about data. They don't give a damn about what happens in the lower court. They're just waiting and chomping at the bit to do the bidding of their God King.
you're not wrong.
I
Um,
mean, the fact is that the highest court in the land doesn't give a damn about, about the rule of law, about precedent, about evidence, about empirical data,
mm-hmm. Come on, keep coming.
about any of that. All they want to do is let it be known that it is open season for the complete abdication of our Constitution.
Period. Big that. So,
Hey, everybody coming out the bushes. We love y'all and we thank y'all for being here. We show love y'all.
I find it so interesting that U.S. District Judge Richard Myers came out with a 68-page opinion on this. So the key legal findings that were highlights to me of the ruling were disqualifying ballots months later violates due process and equal protection under the 14th Amendment. That was the big highlight. And furthermore, I think that the ruling, it's trying to preserve public confidence in elections, and he's trying to resist that political manipulation of the courts. I think that whatever side you lean on, you could have your beliefs, okay, but I think that when we're all in this democracy sphere, right, there are rules to the game, and we can't change the rules willy nilly when we don't get what we want. So for me, I think that this case stands in stark contrast to the Supreme Court redistricting decision. I think that the judge here upheld voter rights and judicial independence, and he is absolutely rejecting these partisan efforts to overturn the outcome. And how it weaves into the black community. And I think that we need to realize that a lot of these challenges, when they were tossing votes, uh, Bush v. Gore back in 2000, right? They challenges to ballots target precincts with high black voter turnout without fucking fail. Every time it's been a contested election and some black people in that state, look at where a majority of those black bodies reside. Go down to those precinct levels, go read those legal documents. They're trying to throw those black votes out. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. So I think this ruling protected those black voters in those precincts, and it reaffirmed that elections cannot be undone through manufactured legal claims, because the judge found no fraud in any of these ballots that they were trying to throw out. And he really said that there was no legal framework or legal ground to invalidate the votes. So
I
courts
think
should defend democracy, and we shouldn't be enabling sore losers, because that's what 47 is. He's a fucking sore loser. He's
yeah.
still on about that 2020 shit when you just got your
I
ass
mean,
whooped.
we just talked about on Teacher Project how we have to teach students now that 2020 election was rigged.
Yes, I came in on the tail end of that. I think
Yeah.
also important for us, right? Black voter protections are going to defend on lower courts now. Lower courts.
I
If,
mean, that is
it
up
gets to,
until
if it gets to the appellate, we're fucked. I'm gonna just
right
be clear.
because
If
at
there's a split, we're fucked.
the Supreme Court has proven they don't give a damn about lower court rulings at all. And here's the other thing. What's so funny and ironic in this case is the North Carolina Supreme Court has 9 seats, and Justice Riggs is already on the Supreme Court trying to keep her seat. She's only one of 2 Democratic votes on that old Supreme Court. 2 out of 9.
Yeah, so they already have a supermajority, and
They
so what?
already have it.
So what the fuck does this matter? It's an ego thing at this point. It's an ego thing, and I would also add that black people really need to be locked in on some of this stuff, because judicial elections shape civil right outcomes.
Mhm.
Because let's be clear, when we had that super progressive Supreme Court, they were riding hard for us. I just like, and some of those rulings, and when you look back at it, that's crazy that they were that bold in changing society. And now we have it in the opposite direction, where they're very bold and trying to take us back to fucking sharecropping and shit. And I ain't going back. But I think that elections have consequences, and that we need to be more locked in. We need to be more engaged, especially as we see that the Supreme Court is really retreating from civil rights. They want to act like that we're in a post racial America, and we know that with the election and subsequent reelection of Obama, that's not the case. And most of this is just a backlash from how dare you have this non-white person in the White House. Let's be clear. I've heard political strategists say that outright, that their base would be whipped up because how dare America elect a non-black person to put them in the White House? How dare they do that?
Well,
They mad,
well, they
and
they
that's why we have a DEI president now.
they've been
Unqualified
mad
ass.
for some time now. Okay.
Unqualified ass. I
In
said,
our last topic of the day, we have to discuss. Oh God, help us!
God of mercy.
God of mercy, God of love. We have to talk about the fact that they're gutting protections specifically for our black asses and for marginalized groups across the country. They are gutting the civil rights protections that we have.
Say that again, one more time.
They are gutting the civil rights protections that we have. They're gutting them. The federal agencies have already been put on notice. All of the titles that have been put in place, Title 1 through 10 that we have, um, uh, all of those have already been impacted. But now we're talking about specific titles with regard to the Civil Rights Act. They are now being gutted.
Title 7, Title 6.
Specifically, what they're looking at is disparate impact liability. That's specific. That's the jargon that you'll hear a lot in this discussion. Disparate impact liability, and they're looking to eliminate that. Now, disparate impact liability is basically the cornerstone of modern civil rights protections. What that means is that means that you cannot discriminate against people even if it doesn't look like you're not discriminating, because they'll tell you, oh, we're not discriminating people. Really. I'm trying to put it in layman's terms
I
for
mean, I
you.
can break it down. I think
uh
I can break it down.
well, let me let our political scientists break it down.
So when we talk about there's two lenses that you can view this to, right? Disparate treatment, disparate impact. What is disparate treatment? That's what we're moving towards. So disparate treatment means you have to have intentional discrimination versus disparate impact, where it's unintentional but it has harmful outcomes. So an example of disparate treatment: a landlord refuses to rent to black tenants, aka Trump, because he lost that one. Disparate impact would be a policy requiring high credit scores that disproportionately excludes black and brown people. So disparate treatment is prohibited under civil rights laws. Disparate impact was also prohibited until Trump's, EO that he signed in April that rolled it back. And let's talk about where it's commonly applied. So housing is a huge one. The Fair Housing Act. Landlords or banks, they may use facially neutral policies like blanket bans on criminal, records, certain income thresholds that disproportionately are going to exclude Black and Latino people, renters or home buyers. Okay, like that's where we've applied it. Employment, Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act, you might require like physical strength tests, college degrees for jobs that don't truly require them, as we've seen with some of the creep with a lot of entry level jobs requiring a diploma for whatever. I don't know, like a high school would be good enough, but you want that degree. So you disproportionately can screen out, if it's a strength test or something like that, you can screen out women. If it's higher education, you screen out a lot of minorities. Education, Title 6 of the Civil Rights Act, zero tolerance policies, how they sound neutral on the face of them, but it leads to more suspension for Black students, even if they have the same behavior as white students, which I'm sure you could speak to LT being in the classroom. And as well as this applies for the for lending and credit, like with the Equal Credit Opportunity Act's algorithms or scoring models that might disqualify people in majority Black zip codes more frequently, even without mentioning race. So there's a lot in this EO that I don't think people are hip to, because disparate impact, that whole legal concept, it's anything that appears neutral but it has disproportionate effects. It's about outcome, not the motivation. And what we switch to now is what is the motivation. And I want to be clear here. Um, this is harmful to us because now you have to prove intent. That shit is not documented. Let's be clear. Anybody that's operating in 2025, they're not going to willfully say something. They're going to hide it behind something else.
Uh,
Structural racism, which this is impacting, it becomes legally invisible, even if the outcomes are clearly unequal. And institutions can now avoid accountability because their policies are facially neutral, even if the outcomes are not. So that's really what has happened. And it's raised the burden of proof significantly if you are trying to sue for anything in housing. education, or employment. And I'll let you take it from there.
I think that I think one thing that we talk about how idiotic and moronic this administration is, this is one area that was not that's not the case, because this is what gives the backing and credence for the diminution of anything DEI. Because on its surface, what they're saying is disparate impact um eh, should not, it doesn't have legal basis, because we are there. It makes the case that, oh, there's no racism in this country. Oh, there's no unconscious bias. Oh, and disparate impact has always assumed that, yeah, on the surface it may not look like it's a policy that has racial animus, or it is profiling or discriminatory or bigoted, but the actual impact of it actually is. And so by them being able to eliminate disparate impact, what that says is they can say, well, yeah, there is no disparate impact. So we can eliminate, this is the backing or basis of why we needed DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because there was disparate impact. And if there is none, then they could say then there's no need for DEI. And there falls quite a bit of monumental laws that we have. And now we can go back to a time where white people can willfully say, we're not racist. Or what do you mean? The law is written for everybody, but still impact us. They are literally taking us back to the days before the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Yep. And let's be clear. I the thing I would try to view this lens through, right? It's not about what the fuck you meant. It's about what happened. Your intention. I don't give a fuck about your intention. It's about the outcome. It's about how it impacts people. Okay? Because I can intend to come from a good place and still do some hurtful ass shit to people. Okay? They don't care about what the fuck my intent was. They care about how that impacted them and how they felt in that moment. Uh,
Now, what I can speak to is I've never lived, I did not live through the bulk of the civil rights era, where my grandparents and things had to deal with the fact that there were technically laws on the books that said everybody was equal, but there was actual real impact on black people that kept them out. What I did am old enough to have dealt with is how that affected the LGBTQ plus community. Now that is, I lived through that, where technically they would say there are no laws against gay people. However, there was disparate impact on the LGBTQ plus community. Even when, like, the military had don't ask, don't tell, they would say, oh, we're not kicking you out of the military, right? However, comma, there were real and lasting effects to the LGBTQ plus community.
and let me chime in on that too. When we talk about don't ask, don't tell, that was '93 and it ended in 2011, right? So I joined the military in 2011. I still remember we had a formation, and they were like, "Don't ask, don't tell" is repealed as of today. So when I tell you, so many people that I would have never guessed, assumed, even thought about were coming out, I was like, oh. Now juxtaposition that against the Supreme Court today allowing the transgender ban,
Mm.
and now tens of thousands of transgender people gonna get put out. Even if you haven't started transitioning, if you have gender dysphoria, they can put you out for that. And I want to compare that to when I worked for the Veterans Benefit Administration. Do you know how many veterans I was able to get benefits that had bad conduct discharges due to homosexuality? It will boggle your mind. How many of them got put out?
I mean, and we're already down when the Supreme Court does that, we're down the slippery slope. Let's be clear. We're going back to a time in the military before 93. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
even before 2011. We're going back to a time before 93.
Yeah.
So
Mind
when
you, you have an incompetent Secretary of Defense that's already damaging morale because you're letting go of 20% of the top brass.
yep, we reported on that today.
20% of the top brass getting let go. Y'all booting all the trans folks out. But then the branches have issues recruiting talent, but you're putting people out.
And you're telling people there's no upward promotion. You're willfully saying, yeah, we're not going to want. And who do you think is going to be the first generals that
The
they get
black
rid of?
the
It's
black
going to
ones
be
and the
the
women.
black ones
The
and the
black ones
women.
and the women.
The women are going. I know the women are going first. They're the first ones out. Black people, they next. Y'all right out, right? Y'all on the same train with them. But I just brought up don't ask, don't tell because I remember I was never in the military, but I remember where if you was going to go get a job or something like that, especially jobs that was front facing the public, you had to go in and get your life together. You couldn't come in there presenting yourself a certain way because certain corporations believed in a certain look the
Hmm.
so even companies like Disney, where you couldn't go in there having your hair a certain length, you couldn't go in there wearing too much of this and too much of that. Certain other major corporations
You
and
couldn't have
companies said,
earrings.
yeah, that doesn't align with our company values and principles, so we're gonna go in another direction. I'm just and we've gotten so used to having things having rights that you have people that become willfully apathetic, which is what we were talking about earlier. They become willfully apathetic, thinking it's just not going to get that bad. I can live through it until they come for something that's a line too far for you. But by that time, it's too late. It's and then you're gonna want everybody to jump up and galvanize around you and your issue, and it will literally be too late. Uh,
Period.
but but this one topic that we're talking about right now, this is probably of probably everything we've spoken about today is so impactful and so important um to us as black people. This directly affects us because what this effectively says is we are going back to Jim Crow era. Because if you look at laws on paper during the Jim Crow era, there shouldn't have been any. No one should have had their rights disenfranchised on paper, which is why there had to be, disparate impact liability and other things put in place. There'd be no reason that every single agency we have, well, I shouldn't say every single, but I would say almost every single agency we have in the country was started because there was a need because it affected us black people.
Yeah, and let's be clear. Like when he's saying that we're getting rid of disparate impact analysis across these federal agencies, we need to be thinking about things like HUD, okay, the DOJ, huh, the Department of Education, EEOC, things that are critical to us being able to participate in this fucking society. If we thought that institutional racism is bad now, well, well, because you have to find a smoking gun, and you have to find somebody that's dumb enough to have it in written form, that was dumb enough to say it out loud with a conversation that you recorded. Otherwise, the racial discrimination lawsuits, the burden of proof has jumped tremendously, tremendously. And bringing up that, I want to also note that you remember they had that Tesla lawsuit. They had a bunch of smoking gun evidence, and
Hmm.
then they were like, "No, you're not getting that much money." So yeah, so it impacts the analysis, even if you do um, win the lawsuit, right? Your damages, they're gonna be less under this because yeah, I need my federal employees to get the fuck up out of there because this shit is insane. Did you read what Candace just wrote? They removed mental health and child care
Yeah, we
benefits.
talked about that. We talked about the mental health, a little bit of the mental health portion earlier, but I got to look further into the Department of Labor. But they had already threatened to remove mental health and child care from the Department of Labor, from employees. They had already talked. I know they had talked
Trying to
about
get
child
people to
care.
quit at this point, but my whole thing is I don't want people to normalize this and just say, okay, well, when the next administration comes in, they can fix this. This is going to take decades to unfuck if we can unfuck it. And this seems very much like, the Manchurian candidate, if you will.
Mm,
We've definitely got a damn asset up there in the White House, but it's not our asset. It's definitely, Russian,
mm.
you know, having proclivities for being pissed on by Russian prostitutes as well. But I mean, that's the last story. You got anything else? Because you over
Look
there
at me,
mentally
y'all.
frayed.
I'm so proud of myself. Look at I've been sitting in this chair, and it's almost 10 o'clock. I've been live since about 4 o'clock today, 4:10, sitting in this chair.
I just want to say that I'm proud of myself. I got the stories out early.
You did.
I got the stories out really early today.
Let me say this, y'all. We would not have made it today without Kamz, because I did the stories for Teacher Project 2.0, and I did the stories for Run Your Mouth, and Kamz did the stories for today, and I appreciate it because they were so timely and they were so on point, and he helped me, and he did all of the heavy lifting today, and I am thank you, sir, for
My schedule
holding
is
me
a lot
down.
more free. It's a lot more free. Trust me. I
I
was
thank you for holding me down today. I don't want y'all to think I don't do nothing around these parts
Del
now.
Teddy does a lot, but I step
Don't
in
think
when
I.
you overwhelm. I mean, my schedule is just freed up a little bit. It's about to get busy again, but I think if I can keep the same cadence, getting it to you after my AM meeting, then I think we're good.
I need to go pack now.
Please
I
do.
gotta
I need you to. I need
gotta
you to get to that flight on time.
that I'm not worried about. Now I don't miss flights.
I mean, y'all have digital ID. When I was in DCA, they had like a digital ID drop line.
They
I
have a
said,
last time I was in DCA, they didn't have digital ID. They have it now.
they have a trust me, that digital ID line when you're trying to drop your bags off, that digital ID line
Oh yeah,
could
yeah.
not be beat.
Delta digital ID line.
It could not be beat.
Oh yeah.
The
Listen,
Delta One folks was mad.
especially at Atlanta Hartsfield. Baby, you just going on over there. Thank you. Skip the whole line.
I
Appreciate
wish we
you.
had a digital ID in this state, but we do not. So I just got to go into the sky priority line. They're like, you're not supposed to be over here, baby. I can be over here. I could be over here
You know
because
when
I missed my little goal by
you're a diamond
I don't know.
Delta person
I
like
our
Cam,
work travel. Look, when I worked in consulting, platinum was easy. It was
you
easy
know.
to hit platinum because I was traveling every week. But now I might go on 5, 6 trips. It was enough for gold before because of the price of the tickets. But now that they done did all this, the price of the tickets and the miles, now that it's
You know they
all
you're
based
right. They
on dollars,
changed the whole
it's just dollars
maneuver how
now.
they do the different rankings.
It's ten
But
thousand for gold, and you don't
right,
even get
right.
shit.
Because I was gold and I moved down to silver. I said, now wait a minute. I'm doing the same amount of traveling. They were like, oh, with the whole thing. I said,
It's just minimum qualifying dollars now. It used to be minimum qualifying miles and dollars. They moved over to what everybody else moved over to. So I was like, I don't owe y'all no loyalty no more. Whatever cabin I can get put in for the least amount of money, that's what I do now. Like, because Delta's lost
right,
a lot of my
listen.
business. I'm sorry, they've lost a lot of my business. Sorry, domestic first class sucks anyway. It doesn't matter who it is. And their new first class cabin, I hate it. That seat is hard as fuck. It don't got no cushion. I hate it. I truly with the one with like the little wings by your head. I hate
Hmm.
that one. It's not comfortable at all. Whoever greenlit that decision needs to be fired expeditiously.
Anyway,
But we know
I'm
you're getting first down to the first class tomorrow.
I know I have business class tomorrow. I won't be first class.
I hate this whore. I hate this whore so much. Real
Real
ID
ID is
is
in
in
effect,
effect starting
but they said
tomorrow.
they'll let you fly, but you'll just have to go through extra
You
steps.
have to go through extra screening. They said that you need to be there 3 hours and 30 minutes to 4 hours
And if
before.
you're flying out of Atlanta Hartsfield, that means 5 or 6. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating
No, the
at all.
last time I went through Atlanta to fly out, because it was I had a we have a facility down there, so we were in Atlanta at that facility. And when I tell you it was chaos,
Telling you.
I was like, the only way I got saved was clear and pre-check because I had
Yeah,
both.
because you got to have both
You got
clear
to
and
you got to have
pre-check.
both now.
You got to have both. You can't play around with just having pre-check because that pre-check line could take you 2 hours.
It
So you
Yeah.
got to have clear and pre-check. Now I have digital ID, and the digital ID used to be really fast, but now too many people have digital ID, so it's not as fast at Atlanta Hartsfield. I just go through clear now and don't even waste my time.
And I had to pick up a global entry because we went to Canada. I went to Canada for work in December, and yeah, my
I
coworkers
thought I read something
they
that
got they got that extra screen, and I was like, we just walked. It
I
was
thought, no, I have global entry, but what I'm saying is, I thought I read an article or something recently that said that one of these policies was going to affect global entry for us. I got to go look at it. I thought I saw something the other day. Anyway, let me get off of here, y'all. I got to go pack and try to get some sleep and get up in the morning at um, 5 o'clock because my flight is at. I got to get up at 5. My flight is at 9. If I get there by 7 o'clock,
hmm
I'm good.
okay. Any last words for the people? For the
I'll
people.
see y'all either Saturday night or on Sunday for Silly Saturday. Is either going to be Saturday night or Sunday.
Oh, I think Saturday night would be cute. I could have have a nice cocktail ready. I'll say this to all of you that have been joining us week in, week out. Um, don't let this stuff beat you up. Let's not be in a negative mental space. Let's let our outrage turn into advocacy because we're the only people that are going to hold us down. That's what we've always done historically. We're going to have to continue to do that. Also, traveling grace to you, El Teddy. Hopefully, you enjoy your time down there. Hopefully, it's productive and you get a little rest as well.
And I'll get me a little piece of Orlando trade.
I mean, I'll be down there in about 2 weeks, so I'm hoping I can.
You gonna hit up your boy?
No, no, dude.
You know who I was talking about too, huh?
Yeah, no. I think I still have the. Anyway, anyway. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I would like to, but
I think he's don't he got like a dude now?
I don't. You're still doing content, so clearly it's open.
Well, then there's that.
Clearly it's open because he loves a bald black man with a beard. Is what was told to me.
Anyway, y'all, me and Kamz gotta go, y'all. We'll be back next week for this has been a great episode 27 for L Teddy 27 of Red, Blue, and Black. We hope you learned today. We hope you all were informed. Thank y'all so much for being in the chat. Thank you, everybody. I know we didn't name everybody individually, but thank you all so much because y'all come back week after week to hold us down and rock with us. And we're so grateful for y'all. Thank y'all so much. And as we always say, whether the country is red or blue, we will always be black.
Okay.
We love y'all. Bye, y'all. Thank y'all.